guys, I just sat down at tables, so the blinds haven't even come around to me yet. I'm just going to sort of be sitting and waiting for a bit. Wow, check that out. I already have the guy labeled. Yeah, today is 5 cent, 10 cent. I'm going to try to grab a little value from Jack 10 or something now. Could possibly have bet. Let's talk about this hand for a bit. He just completes the small blind, and I raise up in the big blind, which is pretty normal. I'd do that with most hands after the small blind completed, knowing nothing else about the small blind. So he calls, and we go to a flop, and I'm in position against him. He has a very weak looking hand because he's limped and called, and we have middle pair. When he checks to us, you can even bet for value on the flop. I think it's close. I think betting for value on the flop to try to get value out of, stuff like 8-9 is the most obvious thing. Since this guy limped and called in the small blind, we don't expect him to play super aggressively with the hand like that. So I don't expect him to check raise that as an open-ended straight draw. If you were doing that, it would not be such a great play to bet with the king 10. Assuming we were planning to fold when he check raised, that would be, we would lose the hand against 8-9, which we're ahead of. That's not very desirable. But since I think he's just going to call with 8-9 probably, and probably call with spade draws and stuff, it's likely that there's a bit of value on the flop, and I maybe should have bet there. On the turn, he checks to us again, so it's almost certain that he doesn't have an ace. You'd really expect him to bet an ace at some point before the river, the turn more specifically. I'm gonna raise jacks big. I could bet there, but I feel like if we get called, a lot of the time it's because he just turned it queen. Probably not more than half the time. Probably we're still getting a bit of value out of some sorts of straight draws and flush draws, and we want to size our bet accordingly to make sure that he didn't fold those. So a small bet, and maybe even some worse tens. On the river, when he checks to us again, we can, basically eliminate any chance that he has an ace. There's a non-zero chance he has a queen, but I'd expect him to bet that sometimes on the river, since it should be obvious that we don't have an ace either. And unfortunately he hasn't tried to bluff us with anything, which is the main reason to be checking a lot, to let him bluff. But one reason he might not be trying to bluff us at all is that he has some sort of showdown value. If he has a pair of tens or a pair of sevens, it wouldn't make much sense for him to bluff. We're just going to call with a weak top pair here. And we raised with sevens, and we've got this sort of dry board, three-way. I'm going to make a half-pot continuation bet, a little more than half-pot, just to try to take the pot down. I expect to be losing a fair amount here when this guy starts donking. We're going to see an ace with a better kicker a lot, but he can absolutely have something worse than that. So we're going to call. I don't know why I'm making him wait for me to call. He had an ace with a better kicker and then some. Kicker is a pretty big deal with aces, because at higher stakes this is less true, but at low stakes people like to play their aces, I think. And ace 4 versus ace 5, you're at a pretty significant disadvantage. Alright, I feel like I was introducing the video a while ago, so maybe I should finish doing that. I don't remember where I was up to, but we're playing 5-10, and I'm just going to be talking about the same sorts of stuff. Pre-flop play, hand evaluation, and likes. Apparently I'm on waiting lists. Here I'm 3-betting in position with king-queen offsuit. I know nothing about this player, really, so, you know, generally it's going to be a pretty good 3-bet. A lot of the time at small stakes, they'll, like, peel your 3-bet and then fold to a half-pot continuation bet, which is what I'm looking for here. Yeah, it's a pretty easy way to print money. Like, 5 years ago, you could do that at 5.10. The dollar one, $5, $10. Nowadays, people at higher stakes have worked out that calling 3-bets out of position, planning to fold to a lot of continuation bets is, you know, pretty terrible. I guess I won the pot where I made the continuation bet with 7s. I sort of forgot that pot existed. Here we're in sort of a similar situation. We've raised it up against the same guy. Got a fairly dry board, but I think that this board is not quite as dry as the last one. I'm going to make the continuation bet anyway. I expect to get called by this guy a decent amount, though. This guy I'm not so worried about. I feel like he can have just a gigantically wide range, but the 10 and 7 I feel hit Foozy Tahiti Bear, because English is a weird language where double consonants mean something about the vowel sound. I feel like the 10-7 hits him decently well when he calls on the button against my fairly large isolation raise. Still though, when I'm betting, you know, a little bit over half pot, only has to work a third of the time, and even if I get called, I have 3 jacks and 3 aces in the deck to hit and improve my hand. And I'll have some, let's go back again, I'll have some turn and river bluffing opportunities too. If he calls and a queen comes, it's going to be a pretty good spot to fire another barrel. Another thing I want to say about that hand. I actually have showdown value on that hand with ace high. Ace high beats 9-8, it beats jack 9, it beats 8-6, it beats jack 8. All these sort of gut shot, open-ended straight draw sort of hands that people might call with. And so if Pat Crack calls, I think my most likely line is to check back the turn, and then I'm going to call sometimes if he bets on the river. I forgot to raise, because 10-6 offsuit looks like a terrible hand, and I probably didn't read the action when it came to me. But, yeah, we let him see a flop for free, and he's betting at us. Would I have really raised 10-6 offsuit there against the limp? I don't know. If we had more information saying he was the sort of guy who was going to fold to tens of c-bets, I would be more inclined to. I think we sort of feel like he is. It's probably good. I'm going to be opening super aggressively from the button and small blind because I don't think players at these stakes are going to defend wide enough for it not to be profitable with any 2 cards, basically. I'm not going to do it with literally any 2 cards, like I'm not going to do it with the 9-2 offsuit here. The reason is I do give players credit for like noticing over the course of 40 minutes that I've stolen every single time from the small blind and button, and I think if they notice that, they'll probably do something. So I think it makes a little more sense to just do it with like 80% of hands or something. If you're a regular at these stakes, I don't recommend stealing 80%. I think people are going to work it out, and I don't think they're going to play back perfectly, but I think they're going to play back well enough to punish you for stealing 80%, because that's just sort of a ludicrous thing to do. This is a really tough spot. I don't know what I'm meant to do here. I'll be honest. We're sort of short. It's four-way. I mean, I don't expect to be much of a favorite if I get it in at all. I don't know. I don't think I can raise. Calling, I think the odds are right for calling, and certainly if another spade falls, we're like insta getting rid of the hand. But there's a non-zero chance we're good. I think I just want to fold now. The problem is, mostly we were ahead when this guy had a queen and this guy had nothing. When he bets again and there's another call, we need him to have some sort of draw, which is hard for him to have. Did he just limp? Yeah, he has 100% of hands pre-flop, doesn't he? This guy I'm not worried about. We're ahead of him. Oh no. Just gonna time out fold. It's easier to fold when you feel like it's likely you'll get to see the other guy's hand. Oh, he checked? God damn it. Maybe we were behind him. I don't know. When the ace comes and Juan checks, I feel like he might have had a queen again. No, not really. He may have been behind both of them. Two pair is a lot worse when the board is monotone and it's bottom two pair. Alright, so we open raised sevens. It's now four-way and somebody is donking pot into us, almost. So, we don't need to worry about losing any more money on that hand. That's interesting. We had the best hand. Don't know what to say, guys. Obviously, this guy's play is bad, and he looks like a super aggressive fish, so we need to get a pink label on him and start playing accordingly. And this guy's play is either absolutely terrible or quite good, depending on if he knows that Goombar Ray is terrible, or doesn't know that. We have top pair. It's not often you get to say that with 3-7 offsuit. If I get called by Rufins, I'm not that happy. If I get raised, I'm just folding. After he limps under the gun, if he calls, I expect him to have like 8s plus, basically. So, a pair of 7s does not do very good against a pair of 8s. Doesn't do very well either. I'm gonna let 6-5 offsuit go here. It's a spot where, ironically, I'd rather have better players behind me. Because, like I was saying, I think that the decent players at 5 cent, 10 cent are going to fold their blinds way too often, at least until they know that you're stealing a ton. Whereas in this case we have a dude who's playing 58% of his hands in the big blind, and I don't think I can get him to fold, and I really you know, I'm looking forward to playing hands against him, but I don't really want to play hands against him with 6-5 offsuit. This isn't exactly true because your hand value affects... I could have considered limping behind, but I don't think it's good. Too likely that somebody ISO raises and I have to fold. What was I just saying? This isn't exactly true because your hand value affects like when you're capable of bluffing and stuff, and that becomes a big deal, and I'll talk about it more later. But if you take a very basic approach to poker, your hand only matters at a very basic level when you're flipping over the cards to see who wins the pot. All the times that the pot ends before the cards get flipped over, the cards you had are not such a huge deal. And when you play against someone with 64% VPIP, and I'm assuming he doesn't like to fold very much post-flop either, because that would be consistent with someone who doesn't fold pre-flop, you're going to be flipping your cards over a lot. So having good cards, you know, it's quite nice. I'm betting completely for value here with pocket eights. Gonna fold, and I'm gonna defend here with ace-3 suited. This guy's made it less than pot, so I'm getting very good odds. I don't expect to be a favorite here or anything. Absolutely not. But for what I paid, I only need to win this pot a third of the time. And I think I can definitely do that. I can consider raising here. Raising here represents almost nothing, but it's so hard for him to do anything about. I'm going to do it for demonstrative purposes. Don't be surprised if he jams and it doesn't work. But basically I'm spending $290 to win $320, so it has to work less than half the time. And it's pretty hard for him to have a hand that he's super happy to jam over me there. I had a feeling that he did because of timing tells and stuff. That's why I was sounding sort of defeatist. I don't necessarily trust my timing tells, so I did it anyway, but yeah, he jammed. I think the bet size, where he bet 3-bet less than pot, sort of implies a stronger hand too. But anyway, we did it, and he jammed. But like I was saying, it has to work less than half the time to be profitable. And if he's 3-betting me with a pretty wide range there against my cutoff open, and that was the third time he's 3-bet, or second time he's 3-bet. That's the second time he's 3-bet in 21 hands, so, you know, there's a decent chance he knows how to 3-bet with less than pocket aces. It can be pretty hard. If he has ace-king there and I re-raise him after he bets on the flop, what's he going to do? Depending on the player type, that play where you call a 3-bet in position and then raise their c-bet can be one of the most profitable plays in all of No Limit Hold'em. It's also not technically a good play because you're not actually representing the hole much, and if they know that you're going to be making a small raise at them when they bet, it's pretty easy for them to just shove, and then you're the one losing lots of money. Yeah, we're gonna do it. Queen 6 offsuit. Decided it's good enough. If I became a 5-cent, 10-cent regular, I would absolutely have to stop doing that. But I'm sort of, you know, I've got my fingers crossed that I don't end up becoming a 5-cent, 10-cent regular. Should we talk about balance yet? I feel like we should wait until a lot later to really talk about balance and why balance is good. So let's wait until later. Part like 5 or 6. Because the tricky thing about balance is that yes, it's technically good, but only if your opponents are good. Ugh. This is a little bit lighter. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. It's a little bit lighter than I would be 3-betting, even if I wanted to be 3-betting like 13% button risk cutoff, honestly. But 3-betting button risk cutoff is just so profitable that I want to take the chance to do it. We are gonna just bet here, no reason to get fancy. Lots and lots of worse hands that can call us down. Maybe not lots and lots, but yeah. You sort of expect to fold, honestly, because people call 3-bets out of position and then fold to a c-bet. That's one of the reasons why it was profitable to 3-bet with king 2 suit in the first place, though. So 5-4 offsuit, probably we're just gonna, you know, not bother raising it up with that one, especially against somebody who just goes all in when he gets dealt second pair. And on this board, it's fairly likely he has nothing. I want to see how he plays with nothing. I'm willing to give up a 19-cent pot to see if he's going to bluff at some point. Now I'm going to bluff because I have 5 high and expect him to fold, yeah. So he had nothing and just like let me see all the streets and then folded the river. It's pretty easy to beat somebody who folds every time they have nothing and goes all in every time they have anything at all. You bet small to make them fold when they have nothing, and then if they go all in, you like call with top pair. Should be a very profitable spot on that table. I've had enough of looking at that face. I hope you video watchers don't mind. Oh, I feel like getting like a nice beach vista in the background of this table. Just seems so appropriate. I'm like lying in bed right now, still in my pajamas. The morning sun is coming in through the window. Just sort of reclining. I'm in New Zealand, it's summer in March. Yeah, I think a beach would be nice. This hand on the bottom left looks interesting. We'll watch it develop and then I'll definitely open up the replayer and look at the full thing. Once it's over, I suspect that our friend 300 is going to get stacked, and that he has like, yep, king 9 suited, and that's not as good as a set. Whoops. Did he have a draw? I assume he thought he had a straight draw, at least. He didn't, but I assume he thought somehow. Oh, he did. He had a double gutter. I take it back. He's a better hand reader than me, clearly. So an 8 or a queen did make him a straight. King jack offsuit, it's a little loose from here. I'm actually gonna fold. I really hate king jack offsuit. It's hard to... Like, the more you play poker, the more you see a hand like king jack offsuit or ace 8 offsuit and just feel this vehement anger. Urgh, that hand, you think. So we have 2 guys who could have anything. And I have king high. I think I'll wait until a turn and then stab. hope to take someone off a 4 or something, I guess. Hope to take people off like 4s and ace highs and just get them to fold so I win the pot. We're gonna have to fold here. Let's go back to our replay. So, gosh, the guy, I miss him. I wish he had not left my table. He went ahead and somebody opened a middle position and got re-raised, and he just, you know, made the call with king 9 suited. Clubs are coming. He does flop the double gutter, so he actually has equity the entire way, I guess. I hate JMC's check here. Oh, it seems really bad. If you get this guy checking behind, like, imagine if the ace, imagine if this guy checks behind and the 8 or 9 of spades comes, and the original dude has like pocket aces, and all of a sudden you are struggling to get his entire stack in, and you're not sure if your hand's good anymore, etc., etc. I think you just really need to bet. Oh, okay. This guy's the one with 7s. Oh, I was reading the hand wrong. I've not done a very good job of reading this hand, really. So this guy just checked to the pre-flop re-raiser, which is a lot better than checking as the pre-flop re-raiser. But I still think he should probably just bet out, given how bad this player is. Just start shoveling money in. Get him to put money in. You turn your hand sort of face up against JMC. It's clear that you have a very strong hand you want to get the money in with, but he's not really who you're planning to make all your money off in this hand, I don't think. And then, yeah, we just call. Okay. So that was actually a fairly basic hand. I just managed to misread what was happening on every straight. I'll blame the time of day or something. Here, I don't expect to get much that's better to fold. Like, this guy's playing 56% of hands so far. If he has a pair of 2s, he may not be folding. So I think it's fine just to check back with ace 8 suited. It gives him a chance to hit, certainly, but it's just the bet doesn't accomplish anything. Now that we have a flush draw as well, I think the bet is valuable enough. It's an odd spot where we're still not really expecting better hands to fold, but now there's incentive to bloat the pot, because if a diamond hits on the river, it means we get to value bet much bigger on the river. And when he calls and checks to us on the river, we have to, have to go for the bluff here. And he clearly has us beat. But I think we will win this. How often do we need to win it? 1 out of 61 times. I think we can call. Okay, so we're actually value betting on the turn against him there. And, in a pretty good way. We were correct that he was not folding better hands, but incorrect that he would not be calling with a good amount of worse ones. I guess we can fish tag that one. It's also worth 6 cents to see what hand he shows up with there. Probably. Maybe not 6 cents, but like 2 cents? 3 cents? I don't know. We now know that he is, well, I mean, you saw that hand. we know that that happened. Look at him go. Just winning every pot. Leave some for, like, the other guys at the table, dude. Here we have pocket 2s in position. I believe we 3-bet this guy last time he opened the cutoff. We can find that out, actually. Was 3-bet by hero 1 time out of 2, so probably, yeah. I think 2s play well enough to want to play them in position button versus cutoff. The other options, of course, are to 3-bet, which I would do if I thought I couldn't call and they made sense to 3-bet with, but I sort of don't in this situation. We can 3-bet, or we can fold, obviously, which is not so bad. It's a little bit tempting to 3-bet here. I'm not going to. And peeling here with 2s is sort of questionable. That's weird. Did he just like bets under half pot when the king turns? It makes me think he has ace-jack. Could he have a diamond draw and be trying to see a cheap river? He's betting so small, I need to win 23% of the time or something, if I call. I mean, I hit a 4% of the time. I think there's a decent enough chance that... Now I have 0 showdown value. There's a decent enough chance that a diamond rolls off and he checks and folds with the jack. Or he checks and folds some other way, or... I don't know. I think I can just barely call that turn. Let's talk about balance for a second, because this is a good time to do it. I rewatched my last video before I made this video, so I could, like, refresh on what I've been talking about. It's been a couple of days. And somebody called with pocket 2s against my early position open on like 4-4-3 or something, and I said it was terrible by him, and it was. But then I just did sort of the same thing with 2s here. Maybe he had pocket 3s and it was 4-4-5 in the last video. I don't remember. If somebody's betting at you with a balanced range, so you have pocket 2s on jack 4-4 flush draw, you shouldn't be able to bet the flop. They should be betting... I think I have to 3-bet here rather than calling. They should be betting enough on the turn and river that you're just not winning the pot often enough to call on the flop with pocket 2s here. And they should actually be betting like almost exactly the right amount so that you can't call on the flop with pocket 2s. They shouldn't be betting so much that it's really bad to call on the flop with pocket 2s, because if they were doing that, they'd be bluffing too much, and when you actually had a jack or something, they'd be losing more money than they need to. But, okay, this is very advanced, so don't worry if you don't follow it exactly the first time I talk through it. Basically, their goal with their betting along all 3 streets, as they bet, should be to make it so that you cannot call them with hands up to a certain point. Below that point are going to be hands which are not profitable for you to continue with. And the more that they bluff, 2 things happen. If they bluff too much, you can start calling more. You can start calling with ace high or whatever. But also, the more that they bluff on later streets, the more you're going to be facing bets on later streets if you call with something like ace high. So if somebody bluffs way too much on the flop and then stops bluffing on the turn and river, you're going to be able to call with ace high and make a tidy profit. If somebody doesn't bluff enough on the flop, but then bluffs a ton on the turn and river, you could fold ace high to their bet on the flop, but you'd make a lot of money you'd make a lot of money out of them because they wouldn't bluff enough on the flop, so they'd check to you a lot, and you could just bet and win the pot. If somebody bets the right amount on the flop, turn, and river, though, you shouldn't be able to call with ace-high on the flop, turn, or river. It should be just barely losing for you. And you, of course, will be able to call with a jack, but it shouldn't be that winning for you. They shouldn't be bluffing so much that it's making you trillions of dollars. And yeah, that's... King Queen is loose here, honestly. Like against an under the gun open, King Queen doesn't do so well, but it's suited and it's already multi-way, and this guy sort of makes everything different as far as pre-flop. We just want to play pots against him. Here we have 2 overs plus flush draw. I think we can get better hands to fold very easily by betting. And also if we get called, it's certainly not the end of the world. We're building a pot to, you know, win when we hit. Was I just saying some last point about balance? Alright, I wanted to say balance is recognizing how many hands you have that can value bet. So in that case, on Jack 4-4, you'd recognize that all hands better than a Jack were very clear value bets, as was the Jack. And then working out how many hands you can bluff with so that your opponent basically has no good play against you with like a good portion of his hands. Make it so that he has no good play with ace-high, while value betting a lot. I don't know that I did the best job of explaining that. I'll definitely improve on that in later videos. If that made sense to you, I'm sort of impressed. Impressed with both of us. If it didn't make sense to you, don't worry. Yeah, I guess we can bet. No. Reason to bet there is to keep betting, basically. The reason to bet is if we think he calls with pocket eights when we bet and then folds the turn. I'd do that with a decent number of hands on this board, but with ace-king, it's just not folding enough hands that are better than ours. And with ace-king, like we have 2 overs and stuff, it's pretty valuable just to see the next straight. It really sucks if we bet ace-king and he check raises as a bluff. We've given him the chance to win the pot. I don't know how often he's really going to do that, but whatever. I guess another issue is that ace-king dominates some of his hands, so we can get turns which are actually really good for us, because like if he has king-queen in this pot, and we turn that king, we're making tons of money. So the fact that we dominate his hands is another reason to let another card roll off. In none of these cases is like, I have a certain type of hand, I should do exactly this. There's always there's always lots and lots of variables floating around in your head at once, and working out whether to check, bet, fold, raise is going to largely be a value judgment based on looking at all of those variables at once and deciding what's most important. That fact makes commenting on poker hands very difficult, because what I see at this table as I'm playing is going to be different from what you see as you're playing. And certainly if I were to like, I can click on this and get a hand history. If I were to show this hand history to somebody else, just with this information, okay, that's a pretty boring hand history, but say something happened in the hand and I showed it to somebody else, they would have much different information from what I'm picking up at the table. They don't know which hands have just happened. They don't know much about the player I'm playing against unless I tell them lots. They don't know all the timing tells that I've seen at the table during the hand. Or even like before the hand, if I saw that he had a timing tell of a certain type and then during the hand he didn't make that timing tell. That's a piece of information that somebody commenting on the hand is missing. So yeah, it can be tough to communicate about poker. Here I'd just fold in the small blind, I think, but certainly I can defend in the big blind at least, and I may be able to 3-bet for value. How much have I been 3-betting? Not enough, and it's 5 cent, 10 cent, so we don't expect 4-bets too often. Yeah, okay. We should probably just call. If I 3-bet there, it would be with the plan to jam all in, and at higher stakes it's a standard play, but here at the low stakes I don't think so. Sorry if you can hear my stomach. I don't know if I said earlier that I haven't had breakfast yet, but my stomach has probably informed you of that. It's a weird spot here, because obviously if you just turn to 10, we get called by 10, and we don't get called by that many other hands. But I think just the ability to protect our hand and charge something like King Jack is worth the turn bet there. And when he calls, we're already expecting to be behind a good amount of time, but then when the river falls, King of Hearts, like King Jack just hit, Ace Jack just hit, Ace King just hit, any heart draw that he didn't continuation bet on the flop with for some reason just hit, so we're no longer really expecting to be ahead of much at all at that point. I still think that turn bet's, okay. I don't think it's super good. I don't hate just checking through that turn either, but I think it's a spot where neither option is much better than the other, and I couldn't tell you which one was better exactly, but generally if I'm in a spot where neither, I should have probably raised that. Generally if I'm in a spot where neither option is clearly better than the other, I am going to opt for the more aggressive option. And the reason for that is that the player who is making more aggressive plays is going to be harder to play against for his opponent, and it's going to be easier for him to do stuff. Easier to get all the money in when you have a good hand if your opponents are used to seeing you bet a lot. So we already made sort of a loose-ish peel with 8s, honestly. I don't know anything about this guy. Okay, that sucks. I think we just have to give it up. In position, I would have continued there. Out of position, I don't think so. It's an interesting spot because we have like this sort of expecting to be the second best made hand, expecting to be the second best draw, but we have both of them. So maybe if he has a draw and doesn't have a made hand, we could end up being ahead, and maybe if he has a made hand but no draw, we could end up being ahead. Overall, though, we sort of expect to just be smoked in the pot. There's an interesting spot up here with 6s. I think I'm actually betting for value. Weird as that sounds. And over here, this guy's being very nitty. Now he's donking into us, and we don't have much. I expect him to have like a pocket pair that's better than our pair of 3s there a lot. So this guy calls, a 7 comes, which is a good and a bad card. It hits us a little bit, but it hits like the hands I thought I was betting for value against better. I was thinking I can get calls out of like Queen Jack, Jack 9, stuff with clubs in it, and I think that that's true, but I'm also certainly getting called by a 10 or an 8, and I'm behind those hands. And when the 7 comes, Jack 9's better, 9-7 is better than us, and most importantly of all, when he makes this sort of bet size, it just sort of screams weakish made hand. I'm not really expecting him to fold. I'm going to make a loose-ish raise with Queen Jack offsuit, because this guy's very bad, and I have 2 Broadway cards. When guys are super bad, hands like King Jack offsuit and Queen Jack offsuit, which are hands I sort of hate, become a lot better, because you're going to get to showdown a lot, and making a Broadway-ish sort of pair is quite valuable when you go to showdown. You're not as worried about being dominated when somebody's playing 30+% of hands. All the cards on the board are pretty low. I'm gonna bet and possibly keep betting on later straights. But expect to get folds a good amount of the time just right now. And from better hands too, like I expect ace 10 to fold probably, even if this guy holds it. Plus I have position in that hand, so if we do see a later straight, I feel like I can make pretty good decisions. Let's check how long this has been going. Oh man, you guys got bonus coverage. Alright, so yeah, I'll wind this up. We developed some more ideas. We introduced some very complicated stuff with balance and talking about why we make decisions to bet, check, raise, fold. I think a lot of players, even at higher stakes, are making decisions based on one reason and have difficulty thinking about multiple variables at the same time. So if you can get good at doing that, it's a very good thing to be able to do. To be able to say that you made a bet both because you were going to get called by a few worse hands and because you thought that if some better hands called, you could end up with a chance to bluff them off the hand later. Or saying that you made a call because you thought his range was maybe a little bit too strong, just looking at it on paper, for you to call, but the timing tell that you had on him, just pushed you slightly in that direction. And, that's completely reasonable. If you think that somebody's timing makes them a little bit weaker, then you should be adjusting your play against them accordingly. But you shouldn't just say, well, he had weak timing, so he can't have a good hand. You shouldn't say, he can have these hands. Keep that in mind. And then the weaker timing makes me think that he has, the weaker ones of those hands. Rather than just saying he must have a weak hand in general. There's a chapter in Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow, which is sort of about that. It's like, if you take a random college student, what major are they likely to be in? Or grad student, what program are they likely to be in? And so you think about which programs are most common for graduate students to be in, and you come up with business or whatever. And then they give you a description of a particular type of graduate student who sounds very nerdy and basically like a computer scientist. I think I have to call with 9s, but I hate it. He's 14-0. Did he limp call? And did we just check through here, or did I call a C-bet? Called a C-bet. I'm gonna check again. Which I'm not sure is good. I think maybe I should have bet. I don't think there's much value here. I'm just gonna check. I should talk about that, but let's finish with Kahneman, because I'm going to make this fold. Once you get given a description of this guy who sounds like a computer major, most people think that the most likely thing is that he's, a graduate student who's a computer science major. But going back to what they were thinking to begin with, you have to realize that computer science majors are much less common than other types of graduate students. And so just because the description fits with that doesn't necessarily outweigh the fact that computer science majors are very rare. You have to take both things into account at once. The description sounds like a computer science grad student, but computer science grad students aren't very common. And so it may just be that he's a grad student in another field who, sounds sort of nerdy. And that may be quite likely. I have 2 overs, a very good flush draw, and an open and a straight draw on the turn there, so it's a really good spot to bet with king high and try to make him fold with 7 or something. It's just one of the most obvious bets that we've had in the entire session. So yeah, we're going to wind this up now. I'm going to go eat breakfast. Sorry about my stomach. Yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the session, and I'll see you next time for a 10 cent, 25 cent. Stakes start to get high pretty quickly around here. Bye.